All right, all right, all right. Good morning, good morning, good morning. So I found out how to change the text in the next benchmark or milestone rather. Um, so now it says 1,200. So we're 25 followers away from the question and answers. Um, and I did some more work on this one. Still not really happy with it, but I think it's moving in the right direction. So that's good. Um, I will do the classic standard. I'm gonna record it so I don't have to say it every time, but please do like, subscribe, so on. It helps me a lot with the end goal. Follow, all these things. That being said, good morning, Atski, Michal, Kuru, Oms. Fantastic. Yeah, so it's the monster is getting there. The whole idea is getting across, but I think I'm still not happy with the way it looks, but it's definitely the right direction. So I think I started painting a lot of the villains now. They're starting to become all painted. I have 3 villains out of 5 painted, which is good. And 1 hero painted up. Now I have 4 out of 5. It's just the last villain left. And then I gotta start doing the heroes. Thanks, Xavi. Yeah, so on the red things there, I want to write like stuff, like they've tied him to the thing. I don't know if it's gonna be red, but some sort of accent color. I spent maybe an hour or so last night, just kind of fiddling on it. Maybe 2 hours. Just in the evening, calmly doodling. Good morning, Svensson. Lurib. All right. Let's start the timer. So I was thinking I'll work on her today. Like spend a half an hour kind of sketching out the general idea. Hey, Profile. Good morning. Marjorie Davis. Good morning. George Wiley, you're back. Paul Treffel, fantastic, you're back. Oh, Svensson art, that's cool. Looking forward to see it. Dearbart, good morning. Orby, hey. All right, so let's work on her a bit. So what I think I will do today with her is just kind of trying to get some nice accents in there, value-wise and ideally color-wise. So I get some stuff in there. So she'll be ideally have gotten the render pass, right? Because I need to give all the entries a general pass of color, right? Because otherwise, you can't have black and white or unpainted concepts. So I also checked the rules for the competition, the ArtStation competition, and nowhere where I could see, at least, did they have written that you need orthographics. So that's good. So at least I don't need to do orthographics for all the entries, because that would be completely and utterly impossible. I feel like I want to give her some cool designs on her gloves, but also I don't know if I will have time for it. So I'm hoping that I will have time for it at some point, because she's going to be waving her hands around, hypothetically, if it would be a game design or a game character rather, and I want that to be like as her main focal point is her hands. I want the hands to feel cool. Good morning, Eric. Lurib, the deadline is after the coming weekend. So I have this week and the weekend to finish. I mean, a lot of people are complaining that the deadline is way too short, especially for 10 characters, and especially if you have wife and kids. Hey, Cthulhu Hoopster. What do you mean by warm-ups help? Now I think this week I will spend my 30-minute warm-up time to kind of develop the characters because of the deadline. Or if you guys don't like it that I don't do general like warm-ups in the the standard way, I can go back to that as well. But just let me know if you want me to do random drawings or develop these characters this week. Oh, you mean in general like that? Oh yeah, definitely. Cthulhu Hoopster. It definitely can be uh, not having the kind of creative mindset or being in the zone. I mean, doing my warm-ups here definitely puts me in the zone of being excited for doing art. Doing some random designs of some cool character, potentially cool character. It makes you excited about art. And it allows me also to be creative and do whatever I want instead of sketching on client work. And it also can help with doing these warm-ups, can help with inspiration for client work. So I would say definitely doing warm-ups help. And I think you definitely can be cold or in need of a warm-up. I mean, look at let's say you do life drawing, right? And that's one of the reasons why they usually have a series of fast poses at the beginning, to get your mind in the right place. But Cthulhu Hoopser, it is sketching. I mean, sketching in this instance, I'm sketching something for only 30 minutes, right? I can't sit and sketch all day. The idea is based on, like do it fast and get it going, like a warm up. It's like a specific thing, warm up, right? I think you're putting too much value into the word, but it's just, you can see it as a warm up, right? But it is sketching. But I mean, I could name it 30-minute sketching, but that has a different kind of connotation rather than a warm up, because it is just a warm up, to get you to be creative. Wow, I sound very defensive. Hey, Jewel Sketch. Good morning. Welcome back. Oms. Cool. Svensson Art. All right, I'll develop. That's cool, Eric. That's good. Cthulhu Hoopster. It has happened. It had a negative knockback effect. Mostly just kind of me being nagged about in my mind how shit I did on the warm up. But it's a part of doing the warm ups as well. Like you only have 30 minutes to do something. Sometimes it's a bad day, but I'd rather spend 30 minutes failing for a warm up rather than spending 30 minutes for a client failing. So like in a way, like when I fail with my warm ups, it's okay. Like I learn something from it, and I learn how to limit the failure towards the client. you know. Hey, LP chat, thanks for the host. Cthulhu Hoopster. No, definitely not trying to draw the same thing. I mean, usually every day. I mean, today is a special day, right? But usually what happens is I ask you guys for a topic, 6 different topics, and I then roll a dice. And whatever the dice ends up on, I'll start the timer for 30 minutes and draw whatever the topic is. So I mean, for this hero, it's for a challenge, right? So I tried to make the topic into a challenge, but Atski won, and he said a Viking bard lady, right? So I kind of tried to alter it into bard, aka music. I made a parallel to punk, so I made her into Viking punk female hero. But in this instance was just purely for the competition. Usually I stick to the theme and draw whatever the theme is that's being picked, but within my interpretation and so on. But I really don't try to draw the same thing. That's not the point. The point is not to make me feel good. The point is to make me, creative and spontaneous and being challenged. And I experiment a lot with different techniques and approaches. And if you look back, I've been doing this for a year now, most likely. And looking back at all the warm-ups, it's definitely changing. I changed the approach quite a bit now and then. So it's definitely not comfort zone. This is, though. It's more towards the competition, so I can't experiment that much. Hey, Tormod and Xylin. Welcome. Hey, Passenger. Welcome, welcome. I get your point, though, Cthulhu, about the comfort zone, but it's definitely not comfort zone. I want to challenge my approach. I want to grow. So I'm intentionally making it harder for myself, And like I said, it's not about me making me feel good. It's about me making me feel good about being challenged and potentially failing or learning or figuring out a new approach to sketching and so on. I have done a lot of experiments over this year, and some experiments have led to direct pipeline changes for certain clients. So that's lots of fun, you know. I would have never figured those things out if I wouldn't be doing my warm-ups where I'm experimenting with approaches and techniques. So it's definitely, I'd say it's definitely recommended to experiment and like I say in my lectures, you should dare to fail, especially when sketching or doing thumbnails. Because if you only stay in your comfort zone or safe pocket, you're never gonna push the envelope enough, and you gotta try to at least challenge yourself to find something new. All over the years, I found myself finding new favorite shapes this way, like by failing or sketching and not caring what I'm doing and just stumble into some cool stuff, you know. Tulu Hoopster. I definitely like, when I paint in general, I go from big to small. So the more rendered I go into details, the smaller the brush. But I try to yeah, go from big to small when it comes to brush sizes. But I definitely, at the beginning of a painting, I use quite large. And if I do line art, obviously I have to do, not have to, but I do small lines. She should have dreads. That's right. I remember. Who was it that suggested that? Was it Alms or was it Sayar that said dreads yesterday? I don't remember. Let's have them wrapped a bit. Kuro, yeah, definitely. I think failing is a lot of people shy away from failing. A lot of people try to not fail and only try to do cool things. And I think in order to really do cool things and come up with something new, you have to push so much further. And obviously, you shouldn't put experiments and failures in your portfolio. I mean, that's not the place for it. But you still need to do them, right? You still need to experiment with them. And I have just chosen to do it publicly, for the sake of education and also community. Like, I think the art community has lost a lot of networking. Like, if you compare it for maybe 10 years ago, when it was in its prime, with these forums being in their prime, where everyone was hanging out and helping each other, and a lot of the people in the industry have turned to instant gratification and like Facebook likes. That doesn't really help with the community, but only like patting your ego. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do like my Facebook likes, but it limits a lot of people because there's no community. It's just groups of people hanging out in the same social media circuits, but they don't really help each other. They just know of each other, which is the shame, you know, compared to how it used to be. Like, a lot of people nowadays, they contact me and talk to me, etc., and almost all are talking about, oh, we knew each other from the forum days. You know, it was a great time where the community grew extremely fast. A lot of people were extremely helpful and knowledgeable. You know, like Craig Mullins were hanging out in the forums, Feng Zhu were hanging out. You know, all these huge names. It was just for them. It was just normal. You know, go to the forum after work, write some messages, and people could talk to them and so on. But then the whole weird something happened, and everything kind of was destroyed a bit. Oh yeah, passenger. Don't get me wrong. 10 years ago was 10 years ago, and you can't really change that. No, that's interesting. Where's the? No, there's the tattoos. You can't compare 10 years ago. Definitely, you're right. But that doesn't mean you should ignore it, how it was, and the fact that it um, can be like that, but up to date. You know how it was today, how it should be today, rather. Atsuki, about the characters, I tried to create some sort of backstory to them, but usually for client work, they all already have those written out. You know, there's someone always thinking about backstory in game design and so on. You know, that you don't really have any. What's it called? What's the word? Direct feedback to it, but you can definitely play around with the idea, and you can infuse lots of backstory, and I think it's a good thing because it does add to the character. What I mean by that is, like, imagine her, right? So she's the punk, she's a punk bar Viking hero, right? So, but all these accessories can be just random, you know, random details. But it could also, you could also attempt to infuse some details into her that tells a story. You know, like, does she have a scar? Does she have maybe trophies of sort? What kind of trophies? You know, you can imply a backstory without challenging the, let's say, the game design or the story, if it would be for a client. You know, and usually what the clients do like when you do kind of infuse more so that they look like they have more depth rather than just they went to the store and bought this outfit, you know, fresh from the factory. Yeah, lots of in the chat here opinions about the topic about Facebook likes. Yeah, it is a tricky one. It is a tricky one. And how or if you should bring back the good old days of um, the forums. I mean, in what way could you bring the back that kind of mentality of the time, or should you as well even? But I think you should. I think you should. I think it's an important thing with feedback and giving and receiving critique, especially from like-minded people that is in the same line of work, because they have way more insight. Even though a lot of times feedback, you can disregard feedback, but the fact that everyone is trying but in different skill levels. But I mean, it's like showing a picture of this woman to my grandma. She would just go, I don't know, what a nice drawing you have done. But showing this to any of you guys and girls, you will definitely have an opinion about design, have an opinion about color or all these things. And I think that is a important thing to keep in mind, that even though people maybe not be as skilled, they have way more insight than you'd think, because they spend all their days looking at concept art and thinking about how to improve themselves and all these things. And it's a great source of feedback. And back in the forum days, I always spent time reading feedback. Maybe sometimes I didn't agree to them, but you don't need to agree to all feedback either. But I think it's important that you do take it into consideration, at least. That's the least thing you could do. Because then you take that into heart and you practice that potential change, um, and practicing see it from a different point of view. And it can be helpful. But Facebook, though, is great for marketing. And nowadays, it's important to have an online presence. And saying that Facebook is not good is a true thing, but it's also vital for marketing. All social media platforms are vital because the amount of traffic and the amount of users are so obscene that if you wouldn't use it to your advantage, you would you know be really, really working against yourself, even though maybe you don't like it. But having a profile where you do upload your art on Facebook and uh, on these things, ideally you have your own website, so you have one place. But I think it's really important that you at least have a Facebook account, that you don't need to be active on it. You don't need to, uh, you know, have friends or comment. Um, but having an account where people can find your art, if they would search your name, I think uh, that at least you should have. I need to remove these tattoos. They need to be painted on separately on this layer. Michael Rachwell, I'd say Jamie Jones and Craig Mullins probably don't use Facebook because of all the people that would bombard them. But they probably have art pages. I haven't Googled Craig Mullins on Facebook or searched for Facebook on Facebook, but I'm quite sure that there is an account of him. Sputnik Art. Well, not everyone knows about ArtStation, and the same thing is not everyone also isn't on Facebook. So I think you can't say one or the other because there's completely different traffic. And on Facebook, there's a higher chance of what's it called, like compound traffic. ArtStation is a very niche website, while Facebook have a higher chance of just kind of sporadic virility or viral, I guess is the better term, viral. Oh shit! I'm painting on the. No, I'm not. Yes, I was on that. It's just a like. Um, it's tricky. You can't deny the fact that there's completely different traffic on different platforms. And not all are on Facebook, and not all are on ArtStation. Yeah, Facebook is very noisy. It's a huge distraction as well. Looking at a half an hour of detail work versus half an hour of the sketching. You can think about this for tomorrow, but maybe you guys want me to sketch something randomly instead because you get a higher kind of yield. This is quite, subtle changes. Um, so I think it's worth for you guys to think about uh, for tomorrow that maybe you'd like me to sketch instead. Oh, wrong button. I try to have some direction on the light, so I decide early on the direction and then work towards that. Um, so the warm up is done. I think tomorrow though, maybe I shouldn't push the characters on these warm ups. Maybe I should just do something random. I'll think about it for tomorrow. I mean, I do like developing these, but maybe it's not enough interest to look at. But I don't know. I mean, she did improve for this half an hour, but maybe not enough. Thanks, Mikhail, and thanks, crew. All right, that's it for the warm up. Thanks everyone for coming. All right, Eric. Um, I might continue developing them though. I mean, the progress is not extreme, but at least they're moving forward. Cool. All right. All right. I'll continue doing them then. Noteless. Hey, thanks for de-lurking. Thanks. All right. Cool. All right. Cool. Okay, everyone. That's it for today. See you tomorrow morning. Bye. Here comes the outro.